Hello, how we doing? Happy Friday. No, not Friday. I'm too used to it being Friday. It's a Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. How we doing? Do I need any help with the stream? I'm good for now, mate, but I appreciate the ask. How are we all doing? I'm just gonna pop up the chat so I can see it on this monitor. Ba, 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 ba. There we go. There we go. Hello, hello, hello. Hiya, Smile. How you doing? Nice to see you today. Um, by any means necessary. Yes, another fad stream. Exactly. I promised for a while. I'm gonna try and be on more often, on more consistently. Uh, and it starts today. Okay. I was gonna spend this evening learning, googling, reading, and I thought we could do it together, as well as talking about the topics in the title. Seems like there's already a few little clippies that I've posted in the in the comments. So welcome, clippies. You are all here and loved. But yes, what we're gonna cover? We're gonna cover the clippy thing. Yes, I know a little bit about it, but not everything. So we're gonna watch the Lewis Rossman videos, who's the man who's allegedly responsible for this. We're also gonna cover some stuff about yeah, Elon, who's having a rough day. um, and also there's some of the economic news that I think is worth knowing about. Comrade Business says, I'm here to learn about the Clippy thing. I know nothing. Okay, great. Well, I have a series of videos lined up for us to both learn about it together. And you can see the kitty in the background says hi as well. Oh, she doesn't want to say hi. But yeah, Smile, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Today has been absolutely roasting. It's like 30, it hit like 37 degrees, so I'm a little bit sweaty, but the air conditioner's doing its best. It's putting in a shift. And I'm loving life. Feels weird to be on not a Friday, but new year, new me and all that. Hang on. By any means necessary says educational stream. Love it. They're always educational, mate. I need a good excuse to learn things, and the internet gives me the best excuse. Smart says it's been freezing here, and I was meant to go do grocery. But that can wait since you're streaming. I would advise you to do your groceries. No need to wait for me. I don't want to be the reason you don't feed yourself. Okay. But yes, I hope everyone's been doing well. Hope everyone's had a good start to the week thus far. As I said, the Clippy situation is, I believe, to do with internet piracy, but I've got a series of videos saved by Lewis Rossman, who's a pretty great guy, big advocate of the right to repair, has been pushing for years now for consumer rights and consumer advocacy, and has been responsible for this little wave. So I've got both of the videos saved. We can watch them together, and then we'll go over some other news of the day. Last week we talked about the Bureau of Labor Statistics and how in the US they fired the person in charge of collecting the data for unemployment. So, oh, oh, hang on. My laptop just started playing a YouTube video there. You might have heard a little bit of Moist Critical's voice for some reason. But yeah, hey, Reject Convenience. How you doing, mate? You know something about Clippy? Okay, great. Well, we're going to watch the Lewis Rossman videos and try and get up to speed with this because I've been seeing the Clippies everywhere. And oh, you're also a little Clippy. Oh. Oh, love it, love it, love it. Yeah, okay, you'll be able to weigh in. But before we can watch the little vids, I need to plug these in. Hello, D Dash. Oh my god, you know each other. Oh my god. Bringing the people together, baby. Hey. Right. Great minds think alike, eh? Great minds think alike. Okay, bear with me while I get my stuff connected and we can get educated, baby. Hi, Edgar. Nice to see you. The Clippy army is here. The Clippy army is here. D-Dash, Reject Convenience is a regular in chat. He's a good guy. We stay in contact. It seems like the algorithm is smaller than I thought. But yeah, I'm gonna plug this in. Bear with me as I disappear for 2 seconds. Hello. Oh. Ah. Right, I'm back. Oh wait, hang on. Probably need some of this. Some yeah. Amazing. But yeah, in my life, the main new thing is a new couch behind there. The old couch that I had was like inherited from the guy who used to live here, and that guy's hygiene practices were pretty questionable. So I've been I've been looking to get rid of it for a while. Finally got myself a new couch, and it feels refreshing, refreshing. Mate, it tells you how exciting my life is. That is one of the most exciting things that has happened to me this week. You know, some people are buying houses, some people are getting Range Rovers. I am thrilled about a couch. But yes, I figured we may as well go straight into it and learn a little bit about Clippy, have a chat, see if this stream ends with me also converting to the Clippy army. I bought some new blankets and I'm having a grand time, so I get it. Oh mate, I got some new sheets delivered today. I decided to like splash out on the fancy ones. I have this theory that like if you use something every day, it's worth like getting a really nice version of it. So I got like a really nice mattress. These cotton sheets, my god. I just wish I could make you feel them through the screen, mate. Smile says, you know you're adulting when you're excited about new furniture. Mate, tell me about it. Tell me about it. I get thrilled about new furniture. The amount of good stuff I've gotten off Facebook Marketplace is ridiculous as well. Like all the hard furniture is all Facebook Marketplace. Like that coffee table there, right? It's like almost $1,000 if I was to get it new, and I got it for like $300 or something on Marketplace. It's crazy. It like lifts out. It's made of walnut. Let me not sell you this furniture, okay? Business says nice sheets are very worth it. I have nice bamboo ones. Oh, bamboo the color or like the is that the material? I didn't know you can make sheets from bamboo. Okay, let me see what Lewis has to say, and I may well join the Clippy army. I'll see how good his propaganda is. Okay, right.
I was listening to the Facebook whistleblower hearings with
No, hang on. Right. If he's good at anything, it's propaganda for consumer rights. That is very true. Lewis is a legend, to be fair. The man has been at it for so long. How long has he been uploading for? Like at least a decade, right? Yeah, 12 years. Mate, he's been fighting the cause, man. He's smart. I don't know why he said 13. I don't know what that means. 200 million, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, 12 years, man. The guy's been he's been on his grind, man. He's been on his grind. I'm pretty sure he's in the same couch as well, but I've been a staple Louis watcher since the the GameStop short stock incident. Yeah, the short squeeze. Mr. X, I do remember you, and you have to be on your best behavior, okay? We've had some change in policy here. We strike with the ban hammer very liberally. So no trolling, okay? Otherwise I'm gonna turn on you without any pity. But yeah, let me see if this is playing.
Senator Josh Hawley.
Nice. Okay. So let's learn about Clippy.
I was listening to the Facebook whistleblower hearings with Senator Josh Hawley a few months back. One of the elements that stuck out to me was when they were talking about how if an underage girl has deleted a selfie, Meta keeps track of this because they know that this person likely has low self-esteem at that moment that they deleted a picture of themselves, which means that they may be more apt to purchase something from an advertiser of a cosmetic product. And I think about this within the context of what companies used to get in trouble for and what they do, or more importantly, don't get in trouble for today. I grew up in the 90s, a time when Microsoft had hell and fury fall down upon them because they bundled a web browser with their operating system. Whether you think this is a good idea or not, I personally think that a web browser being installed in every single person's computer that's standards non-compliant, that is so bad that you can literally get a virus from visiting a website, has its problems. But when you look at what it is that companies got in trouble for in the 90s, it just doesn't hit the same when you look at what companies get away with now. I remember having a Dell Dimension 233 back in the day, and if you wanted to get the one that had slightly better graphics, they would give you a free installation of Microsoft Office. And with Microsoft Office back in the day, it came with Clippy. Whether or not you like Clippy and whether or not you liked Microsoft Office or having an operating system that had the browser built into it that could easily get you a virus when you visited other websites that were trying to invade your privacy, the one thing that you could say, unlike Facebook, who is trying to profit off of young girls that feel suicidal, Clippy simply wanted to help. He might have been annoying, but he just wanted to help. There were no ulterior motives. If you told Clippy that you were having a bad day, he wasn't going to use that information to try and figure out which advertiser to sell you to, nor was he trying to steal your personal data or get you to purchase other Microsoft products. He had no ulterior motives. He was simply there to help. Unlike many modern pieces of software, like what you get from Adobe or Intuit, where you can't buy QuickBooks anymore, you can't buy a video editor anymore, you have to pay a subscription fee for it. If I were to boot up that computer that has not been used for 28 years, and I wanted to start up Microsoft Word, I could do so without connecting to the internet. And Clippy would still be there, happy and as enthusiastic as ever, simply wanting to help. Adobe is another example of this. This is a company that tried to twist people's arms into having AI and machine learning stuff go through their personal data.
I just need to go off about Adobe. Adobe was one of those companies that was Adobe was one of those companies that has just had such a fall off. I don't know if you know how early Photoshop worked, right? But the early versions of Photoshop, you just bought the software and you got the software. Also ICX9, I don't know what you're talking about. You bought the software and you got the software, right? Before they changed to this Creative Cloud model where you had to subscribe, and as soon as you end the subscription, you lose access to the software. But the craziest thing is that with their AI, instead of just subscribing and getting the software, you have to subscribe and commit to giving them everything you create so that they can use it to train the software and then charge you more to access those features that were trained on the data that you paid for. IC9, there is always more important things in the world, mate. If that was your logic, we wouldn't get anything done ever, okay? But yes, I dream of a day when you can actually buy things and have access to them permanently. And it's so ridiculous because it is an important case, right? It is an important case. Consumer rights are always important. It doesn't matter if it's if it's Photoshop or if it's, you know, the right to drink water, because all of this business model like slowly starts to consume every single industry once they realize it works in one place. But yes, I haven't met an Adobe user who like likes Adobe. Hi Goosey, nice to see you. How long has the Adobe subscription model been the standard? It still feels recent to me. I think about a decade now, right? Hang on, let me just quickly check. How long has Adobe been and then we'll get back to it. Yeah, just over a decade, May 2013. Annoying, really annoying. Because the most annoying part is that it's not like the software has gotten better, right? Like Photoshop is the only functional part um of like the Adobe suite. Everything else has gotten noticeably worse. After Effects is like After Effects will destroy your computer if you let it. But yes, let's crack on.
Not public data, not the speeches that I give, not my website or my blog posts or my videos, but my private data, the stuff that I'm editing. And there were people that were not able to get into their account until they agreed to this new end user license agreement. When they are looking for access to your data, they're doing so because they want to train an AI on how to do what you do without paying you, without your consent. Clippy simply wanted to help. When Clippy would ask you if you wanted help with writing your letter, Clippy wouldn't even read the contents of your letter. He just wanted to offer suggestions. Game of Thrones had, I'm not going to spoiler alert, there's this Sons of the Harpy in season 5. They were these people that wore masks and they pushed back against the new regime. And the purpose of the mask was to let the leaders know that when you see people with this mask, we are against you and your new regime, and we are going to push back against it as often as we can. And the worry with the Sons of the Harpy mask is that it starts with one person putting the mask on. And then somebody else gains the balls to put the mask on. And then 20 or 40 or 100 of them put the mask on. And once 100 or 1,000 of them put the mask on, there's nothing that the leaders can do at that point. Enough people have put it on, and enough people have come together with solidarity. And they're going to do something about it. Now, granted, this may not be the best analogy because, spoiler alert, they were trying to bring back slavery and they also were just bad people. Khaleesi kind of became a shitbag at that point too. But besides, I think that Clippy is like a modern day Sons of the Harpy mask. If you're tired of companies changing the terms of the sale after the sale and getting away with it, turn your profile photo to a Clippy. If you're tired of companies that have the ability to reach into your house and ransomware your products so that they stop working unless you pay them again, claiming that that's legal, but then when somebody tries to give you back access to what you bought and paid for, that's illegal, change your profile photo to a Clippy. If you're tired of sex bots invading the comment section on a regular basis, and their comments always posting with no problem, but your comments being censored even when you're not saying anything that bad, change your profile picture to a Clippy. If Google, being one of the premier data mining companies on earth, not being able to tell that little fucking cat with 2 pillows next to it that they try to make look like an ass so that thirsty young men click it as they normalize sex trafficking on the platform that doesn't allow you to express an opinion bothers you, change your profile picture to a Clippy. And let them know that you're not happy. Clippy never tried to normalize sex trafficking. He just wanted to help. If you're tired of companies saying out loud that the reason they want to keep you from fixing what you bought and paid for is that may take money away from them, change your profile photo to a Clippy. I never expected to win the legislative battle. It would be nice if I did, but it was never something that I set as I need to do this or I'm a failure. What I always hoped to do was win the cultural battle, where all of you understand what's going on and you decide that enough is enough. If I ever have a chance in my personal life to push back against this, I will. You're maybe not going to send that email that you're supposed to send to Interso to tell them, oh, by the way, make sure this chip doesn't end up on Mouser.com. Here's an NDA, blah, 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 the supplier agreement. Maybe you just forget to send that email. When there's a new consumer rights law that the senator that you work for is on the fence about supporting, and there's a lobbyist that's going to be against it that wants to have dinner, whoops, maybe their invitation went to spam. I didn't see that. Sorry, boss. Maybe you quit.
I see now why use Clippy. It's a corporate avatar of your FG of compliance. Bro, yeah. I think you're you need a little break, bro. You need a little break. I think a little bro was having a bit of a hard day, you know how it is. I get you, mate. But what I will say is that in aight people have hard days for all sorts of reasons, eh? One of those days. But yeah, what I will say is that it can be easy to say, Goosey, you're like, the best way to hurt Adobe is to not use Adobe and support their competitors. But what I will say is that, like, that's not how monopolies work, right? Monopolies work by subsuming more and more of the market until you don't have the ability to choose. Now, obviously, if you're just like a guy making videos in your living room or in your bedroom, then you can choose whatever you want. But if you want a job in this industry, if you want a job in video editing, if you want a job in graphic design, you literally don't have a choice but to give up like your rights to the monopoly. Um, you know, it's nice to say that the best way to hurt Adobe is to not use them, but like that's not how monopolies work, right? Monopolies end up taking more and more of the market share until you don't have a choice, until they're the first software that you learn how to use, and they're the software that controls the industry completely. And you know, obviously, changing your icon to Clippy is it's not a huge thing, right? It's not a fucking it's not a revolution, but we need more easy things that people can do. People need easy ways to show their opinion. Like not everyone can go to a protest every weekend or fill in a petition or anything like that. And I think a movement that is grassroots and that can allow people to actually express themselves without taking tons and tons of effort is always a good thing. I think it's always a good thing. Hi, oh, it's them. Welcome, welcome. And then Assaultic says, "Hi, what did I miss? You didn't miss much. We were just watching the like you're a Clippy as well, right? We're just watching the video because I wasn't that clued up as to the Clippy trend and what was going on there. But you know, it's a noble message, right? It's a noble message that there was a time when software did try and help people, and that's not what we have now, right? Today we have like this game where you have to try and fight every piece of software to try and get it to not extract some kind of value out of you instead of having software that would provide value to you. And I think at the end of the day, it comes down to monopolies, right? Well, actually, yeah. Elon Musk has been crashing out, and I think his crash out is actually pretty related to this. But yeah, at the end of the day, it comes down to monopolies, and people need ways to be able to stand up that are not super labor intensive. So I'm not going to be too mad. I think the worst thing that this could happen, or the worst thing that could happen here, is that like Microsoft tries to ride this wave. They like miss the point of what people are protesting about and just release like more Clippy merch and just try and milk it. But yeah, reject convenience, as you says. Like, what if you can't reject convenience, right? Like, it's not always an option. Yeah. Smart says, last night I watched a video about GPT-5. That's a revolution, like an actual revolution. Things picked out. Function in simple apps, a few prompts away. Now, yeah, I don't know too much about the details of GPT-5, but I guess that's a little that's a little scary as well. That if it is actually able to produce reliable apps, I'll believe it when I see it like making money though. Adobe's considered one of the worst performing tech stocks right now. I've seen people pushing for others to use DaVinci Resolve. Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Adobe has finally begun to reach this kind of turning point where uh, they've not been allowed to buy up all of the competitors. So we'll get back to this. But a few months ago, there was going to be a merger between Adobe and Figma. Figma balls. But Figma is a design app, and the FTC managed to successfully block it, as well as like the European Commission. And this has helped to create just a little bit of competition, right? Like it used to be normal that the laws that existed to prevent monopolies were like actually enforced, and it was for the good of the people. Because if you have more smaller competition, Adobe has to either adapt or die, right? They can't just buy up all the competition like Meta does, like you know, like Google does, like Apple does. And you know, part of the struggle of Adobe is that recently there's actually been competition emerging, and they've not been allowed to just buy them and destroy them. But yeah, I get Louis. I get what he's saying here. I think it's a good idea to have a grassroots movement and to get people talking about it. And it's a relatively low lift thing. You know, he could have just personally made the decision not to use Adobe or whatever, but if he had done that, I would never have heard of this. So yeah, you can see people feel motivated. They feel alive. How to I've got the follow-up video saved as well in the watch later. We'll watch it next. How does Apple buy the competitors? Like which ones? The only notable one I can think of is Beats. Well, Apple tends to buy like smaller startups. That's one of their big things. They tend to buy more like startups and stuff. But they have other methods to stifle the competition. mainly through the App Store. The App Store is like a crazy monopoly, but we'll actually get to that in a second because Elon's been complaining about that too. And I unfortunately have to speak out in favor of Elon Musk for once. Mr. Cynic says, I fear any rebellion is doomed to fail if it must be made easy. The entire aim of fascists is to make it hard to rebel. Inevitably, there will be no easy way to rebel. Well, you know, I think you need a combination of easy methods and hard methods. You need something to actually get people through the door, especially in 2025, right? Like nobody gives a fuck about this stuff if it requires more than 20 seconds of attention. So, you know, I don't blame Louis Rossmann for this. I think he's done enough like serious stuff to do a lighter, wackier one. Hello, Lost Soul. Nice to see you. Yes, I promised I would be live more often, and it starts now, okay?
Quit before you create a fake paywall to test if your customers will pay again for what they already paid for. Or maybe when you send out that ransomware firmware update, you make it opt-in instead of opt-out. Whoopsie, if in some bizarro world it is actually illegal to make a thermostat work again, and this bastard of a CEO decides to try and get the individual in trouble, 10 cases to prosecute, only got time for 6. Maybe I just ignore this one. When a company CEO logs into their Slack and sees 10,000 Clippies looking back at them, what I hope occurs is that they intuitively understand that they no longer live in a world where they can get away with fucking over the consumer. That their employees, their partners are not going to be accomplices to this anymore. That they are alert and they are aware of what is going on, and they are going to politely but firmly push back against it. Every single one of those 10,000 people will be an obstacle to the anti-consumer practices and the anti-ownership practices, and it will no longer be another cog in the assembly line sending us all into a dystopia. There will be a moment where that one person who usually would not have a say in anything can be activated, and in that moment, keep the world from sliding further into a dystopia, or help push it forward in the opposite direction. But we all have to get together, and the first step is making it public that we know what's going on. That starts with a Clippy. On YouTube, if you're with me, I ask that you change your profile picture to a Clippy. At work, change your Slack profile picture to a Clippy. If you work at the White House, don't take down the United States flag, but somewhere on the grounds, put up a flag of a Clippy. Clippy's a symbol that what used to be considered one of the worst annoyances in our life would now not only be welcomed, but for all of his flaws, celebrated as an idol. Because for all of these things that occur right now where there is negative malice of intent, I want to take away what you own. I want to take this back. I want to get your data. I want to sell you to an advertiser when I know that you're crying. Clippy just wanted to help. And if you were to turn him on today, unlike most cloud bullshit, he'd still work. Hulu Foundation is going to be announcing the winners to both the Future Home Bounty and the Echelon Bikes Bounty within the next month. Us offering 5,000 here, 20,000 there. It pushes the ball forward. But at the end of the day, that does nothing in contrast to organizing all of you. We're happy to get the ball rolling, but for us to truly win, we need to show that if you push us, Clippy clips back. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video.
We also have the duty not to infringe the IP rights in the process. It is in fact the manufacturers who have the relevant rights, not consumers.
I think he has a good argument. And I think honestly the best argument in favor of the Clippy is the fact that there's no open channel of communication between these platforms and their users. Like I'm sure you've seen thousands and thousands and thousands of people complain about the bot problem on YouTube. Like all the sex bots in the comments, or the scam bots, or the crypto bots. But there's no like mechanism in place on YouTube for people to actually raise these issues. And for there's the comment section, but you think YouTube's reading all these random comments. So hopefully, you know, the Clippy is a very visible way for you to express your opinion automatically within every comment you ever post, within every video you upload. It's actually like opening up, or at least using one of the few open means of communication to allow people to voice their opinion. So, you know, I'm kind of behind it. I'm kind of behind it thus far. We'll watch the follow-up in a sec. But, you know, I think it's quite telling that, you know, Clippy did try to help. Clippy was trying to help, and it wasn't that big of a problem back then. Let me try and catch up with the chat. Lost Soul, we might have a new profile picture Clippy made. Mercury says, okay, but what do I care if some mega corporation has data about me in a server in a foreign country that no one will ever know I found out? I have no enemies. I'm Mr. X and you shadow banned me. You're much more polite now that you've been shadow banned. You don't have to care, by the way. And it's up to you to decide what you care about. But ultimately, the thing that you should care about is that that data will be used to make your life worse. And that's the only thing it ever gets used for, is making your life worse. And I am generally invested in taking actions that make my life better. And so that's why you should care about your data, right? If you look at how this data has been used over the last decade, it's been used to make more money from advertisements, have better targeted ads, reduce the quality of your service, create features that use your information and then sell it back to you, like with AI and with Adobe. And overall, it's just been used to reduce your quality of life, not improve it. So that's why I care about data. Mess with Cliffy, you get clipped. Russell says engineering is new DIY before because manufacturers are making barriers. Mercurio, I literally don't know how to unban you from here. It would be more work than it's worth. How do I unban you? Yeah, I'll do it later, mate. You've got another account. Well, YouTube has no incentive to remove bots. They bloat their users and make YouTube look healthy. I mean, yeah, that's the big problem, right? Is that all the bot activity, bot engagement counts as real engagement when YouTube or when Google collates its metrics, when it collates its total annual number of comments and total annual number of posts. All the bot ones just get rolled in. But at least Clippy helps to create some kind of channel of communication and some way to speak out. Mercurio, no one in my country argues about politics unless elections are close. Which country are you in? Because I highly doubt that's true. Sailing the high seas is an act of resistance. I agree. Why you get banned? You made a joke. You made one too many jokes, and this is a dictatorship, baby. We ban who we want. There are no rules here, except don't derail the conversation. I agree. At the same time, it's spreading on YouTube is a massive platform as people don't change their profile pictures as often here as with other platforms. The relevant question, do you think South Korea's birthright will stabilize around 0.75 because it went up for the first time in 13 years? I actually made a little video about birth rates quite recently. We didn't actually talk too much about South Korea, but I don't think that it's looking good. I can't say exactly where it's going to stabilize, but obviously it's going to hit a stabilization point. But 0.75 is a really low point for it to hit. That's quite a bad point. And yeah, I'll upload the video tomorrow. You can see. Will you ever make a video about other countries? Maybe. Who knows? Who knows, mate? I do live 2 hours away from the US border, which is why I'm especially interested in it at the moment, but I might cover a different country. Assaultic says, also consider Clippy's appearing more in corporate environments and not public platforms. Yeah, I think Clippy is a good method of nonviolent resistance, you might say, or just a way of people to express their opinions and on something that usually just goes ignored. Because when you try and speak to people about these things, like normies and stuff, normies don't really give a fuck about data privacy, but they do want to be part of a trend. They want to be part of a movement. So movements are just a good way to get people mobilized, a good way to get people to express their opinions, and a good way to remind these platforms that that the user bases aren't that happy with the declining quality of the services. And YouTube has literally no mechanism to voice those complaints in place. It has definitely no mechanism where the users hear a response. And if profile pictures have to be the mechanism, then so be it. Like this Clippy trend is definitely going to start a few articles, right? Like I'm sure has Wired posted about it. Let's see if Wired has posted about it. Clippy profile pictures. This is going to get way more attention than anything else. Okay, so there haven't been too many articles, but what? Within a matter of days, there'll definitely be some articles on this stuff, and it'll just reach far more people than it ever would. So I cannot be mad at Lewis for doing this. But yeah, I'm curious what he has to say in his follow up, because thus far I'm behind it. I'm behind it. Celtics says that. I didn't say I got mentioned. You're right. You are right. D-Dash said it. And Bounce House, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I love that little toad emote. What a cutie. Yeah, the follow-up is already out. The follow-up is in the watch later. See you in a second, reject convenience. Right there, baby. I'll tell you what though, I've got some bangers in the watch later at the moment. Some absolute bangers. I don't know if you've ever watched Climate Town, but it's a really good channel on climate change, and watching Joe Rogan get cooked is one of my favorite hobbies. But yes, let's see the follow up.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Bounce House. The short version is Clippy was, if you know what Clippy was. Mercurio, I'm not going to answer that question. Just type into Google, okay? If you. Yeah, so the idea is that Lewis Rossman is discussing the idea that Clippy was an intrusion. It was one of the first, I guess, intrusive bits of software, but ultimately Clippy was actually trying to improve the user experience. Today, intrusive software is a lot more intrusive for one, but ultimately exists to make the user experience worse and to make more profit for these companies. So by changing your profile picture to Clippy, you're trying to send out a public message that we want software that doesn't abuse the customer, that actually tries to provide a better service than the competition, and doesn't just try to create a monopoly and use that market advantage to remain popular. That's the short version. But we'll watch the follow-up, and he'll probably go over it there as well. Mr. Cynic says, I'm really starting to doubt media attention matters. We have Trump literally violating the Constitution weekly, and all the media attention in the world is barely something. I mean, yeah. Obviously, that is that is very true, and it is true that the media attention is limited in its impact. But I do think that probably the biggest benefit is just informing people who just don't think about these things, because I think most people just don't think about these things. They don't think about data safety. They don't think about like what happens to their information. They don't even know like the basics of how social media platforms work. And if you can just get people to at least do a little bit of effort in learning why these things work, then you're making progress. You're making progress, right? Like you can't expect one guy to fix the whole problem, but we can definitely expect someone to contribute to the public awareness and to educating people about these issues, which is what Lewis has done for years. I remember there were memes where Clippy helps you make blackmail. You think the tech oligarchs will care about Clippy stuff? Well, it's more about the consumers caring than the tech oligarchs, right? Tech oligarchs don't really give a fuck. But at least if consumers can be educated, it's always a good thing to have a more educated consumer, because the more educated you are, the better you can make choices. Have you heard about the second China shock? I haven't. The first China shock is the whole World Trade Organization stuff. I didn't know there was a second China shock. Hang on. We'll watch this video and then we'll get into that. What's the concept of a second China shock? Oh, interesting. Okay. Goosey said, I think you would like Johnny Harris's videos on tap water. I kind of stopped watching Johnny Harris. His videos are really well made, but there's like whenever he makes a video on something that you like know about, you realize that he can cut corners and be a little unreliable. But yeah, let's watch the second part, gang, and we'll get into it. CIA Harris. Yeah, he had that really weird video where he was like sponsored by like the World Economic Foundation, right? Which is a wild sponsor. And he claimed they didn't pay him, but they totally did. But anyways, let's crack on. And Mercurio, I would say that maybe you don't need them, but there are a lot of people who do need those services. There are a lot of people who make their living with those services, and they don't have the option of just deleting them. But you know. Yeah, I could complain for a while about Johnny Harris, but let's listen to Louis or Lewis rather. George Ruckle Schmidt has some good videos about Coca-Cola, few families, Nestle. Oh, that does sound very interesting. Okay, let's dive in.
I hope you're having a lovely day. So I'm not used to doing videos that are throwaway videos because I'm hallucinating paper clips, which is for a number of reasons I'm not going to get into in this video, that wind up doing better than anything I've done on this channel for 13 years. That's not usually what occurs. But it did. I figured that video would get the viewership of when I upload Maria's puppy, like 10K views, whatever. It's a puppy, we move on. What am I trying to get done here? On this channel 7 years ago, there's a video I uploaded where I said it's 99% inspiration, 1% legislation. What I meant when I did that video is you have to change minds before you can actually change the law. And more importantly, even when you do actually get the law changed, which we have together done on this channel, whether we're talking about a bill that passed in New York State, a bill that passed in Minnesota, California, Colorado, which again, would have never happened without the help of all. Emailing and calling in when I asked you to, donating to the lobbying efforts, and making your friends and family aware. Even when those things pass, sometimes they don't even get listened to if there isn't enough pushback, if there are not enough people that care. One instance of this would be in California. There's a law that passed that I think is great. It says that if you're selling a product in the state and you offer a lifetime license, but that can be taken away at any given time, you can't do that anymore. That's false advertising. That's illegal. I tested that law to see if it worked, again, with the help of all of you. And we figured out that that law is not real. Now we'd like to start a campaign to try and figure out how can we get this law actually enforced? How can we start to push the ball forward so that legislators understand how ownership is being eroded. And that doesn't necessarily happen unless people are actually aware of the problem, understand that it's a problem, and above all, feel like if they speak up about it, they're not wasting their time. There's this concept called slacktivism, and you'll see it come up on websites where people are more concerned with.
Yeah, I just thought he was talking on 1.25x speed, but he wasn't. He was just talking fast, okay? I wasn't saying anything important, gang. Let's calm down. Let's calm down, okay? Thank you for calling out the muted mic, though. Appreciate it.
Punching down than they are with actually trying to clean up their own corner of the world, because one of them is easy and one of them is not. Slacktivism means doing nothing. And I can imagine the type of person that is using that type of word to insult you because you change your profile picture to a Clippy is the same kind of person who's going to say, well, what's the point of putting your key in your car? That's not going to get you to work. Yeah, but it's a prerequisite, you fuck. The point of the matter here is that over the last 7 to 10 years of trying to advocate for right to repair and 13 years on YouTube, the one thing I've noticed that is the biggest cancer to any type of activism is apathy and believing that you're alone. That even if you are not apathetic, even if you are willing to fight for what you believe in, that you are the only one, so you're not going to get anywhere. And the weird thing is, no matter how many times I disprove this, no matter how many times I say, look what happens when 10,000 of you email in, we get a bill. Look at what happens when you email in and do this. Look at what happens when you participate here. People still believe that it's hopeless. They're not.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah, I think that's probably the greatest point, to be honest, is that there are a lot of people who care a lot about this stuff, right? And a lot of those people will think that they're alone. It's the same thing that we saw happen with Stop Killing Games. There are plenty of people who think that the gaming industry is super predatory and who are genuinely motivated to do something about it, but just don't feel like they have anybody in their corner, that they're the only person who cares this much. Oh, God. I'm so gassy. Hang on. But yeah, there's genuinely like a lot of people who think that they're alone, but they care a lot about these issues. And just having having unity, knowing that you're not alone, helps the people who are willing to go that extra mile. Like, not everyone with a Clippy profile picture is going to do anything other than just have the Clippy profile picture. But there is a percentage of those people who are actually going to try and push for legislative changes, who are going to contact their representatives, who are going to do all the extra work. And if those people feel like they have support by thousands and thousands of, you know, anonymous Clippies on the internet, they're immediately like a lot more motivated to do that stuff. Because those people exist, right? Those people like Lewis, right? Like, Lewis is obviously going to be banging on about this stuff for a while now and actually do something about it, because he always tries to actually do something about it. And I don't doubt that he's going to be more motivated when seeing like 1,000 Clippy profile pictures in the comments. Yeah, Smile, right? As you say, like, Clippy's under the most random videos on YouTube at the moment. And if you're a person who's going to push this movement forward, like, how motivating must that be to see all of these people who actually want change? It's great. I think it's good. I think it's good. Mercurio, I don't think they're after you, mate. Exactly. And people talk about it, right? Like, we wouldn't be talking about it here today if it wasn't for for Clippy. And thank you, Six Fixie. Let me save that. But yeah, I think he's
going to create any sort of real world change. And what I was hoping to do is get a different outcome if people realize that there are other people that think like them. There are other people that are actually willing to do something. I don't plan on just having you people turn your profile pictures to a Clippy to just do that. Like, that by itself doesn't do shit. What I plan on doing is getting each of you to realize that if you work together, things happen. I'll give you an example. Not the best analogy. Let's say that we're dealing with cars. There's this thing called following distance, at least in theory. In Texas, God knows how they drive. In theory, there's something called following distance for safety. So if I'm at a red light, I'm the fifth car. When the light turns green, I don't start moving immediately. The first car moves, and then after he's maybe like 1 or 2 cars following distance, again, in theory, we're in Texas here, the second car will then start driving. Then after that car is a little bit further away, the third car starts driving, and so on and so forth. There's a following distance. And because of that, while the first car is moving, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the eighth, they're all not moving. And with heavy traffic, it gets worse and worse and worse. What if there was a way to have 0 following distance and still drive safely? Let's just assume that that was possible. Everybody would start moving at the same time. That's what I'm trying to do here. I want all of you to move at the same time. I'll give you an example. Let's say that you work at a national grocery store chain or a national department store that is very, very popular. And they have these little wheelchair carts for people who are elderly or disabled to be able to get around the store and shop. I've seen these from time to time. Let's say that this thing costs, I'm just going to throw $10,000 per. And let's say that when the power button breaks, the company that comes by to fix it wants $8,000 or $9,000. So a lot of them are broken. Now, if you're just the employee who's there and you're listening to the repair person come by and go over this, you may not care. Now, let's say you've watched my channel for a little bit and you've gotten into right to repair and you've made things work again that the manufacturer said would cost $2,000. You got it to work for $20 and you felt the excitement that I hope you felt when I put the channel banner fan spin and started doing those 1,000 repair videos. You may think, nah, that's kind of bullshit. I don't like that. But you may not tell your manager about it if you don't think your manager is going to care. Even if you tell your manager about it because your manager cares, your manager may not care if the purchaser that chooses which of those chairs that they buy is not going to care. Even if the purchaser says, let's see if we could find somebody else, even if it costs $100 or $200 more for the chairs, it's worth it if we're able to fix them. He may not care if the board of directors is not going to care. But if all of them know at the same time that we're on the same page, we are tired of living in an anti-ownership society. Check. We're tired of living in a society where we subscribe to everything and we own nothing. Check. We're tired of being told it costs $8,000 to fix a fucking power button. Check. Because, by the way, in the medical industry, something similar to that. In this video I go over, there's a $35,000 hospital bed. And when the little motor dies, it's like $250 or $500. They got to replace the whole thing for $35,000. Anyway, that's an aside. If every single one of these people were not only on the same page, but knew they were on the same page, maybe each one in the chain would speak up when they otherwise wouldn't. And when they're all moving together and all working together, what happens? They choose a different vendor. And the vendor that was screwing everybody with repair and going, oh yeah, 8,000 to fix it when the power button dies, gets fucked. That's
I think this is actually a really good point. If you ever look at polls on basically any issue, I think the big one is marijuana in the US. The general public in the US was in favor of legalization of marijuana for at least a decade before the states started to actually legalize it. It's one of those really strange things, right, where people's public opinions can be incredibly in favor of a particular change, of a particular policy, but because they don't know that other people agree with them, there's no broad political consensus for for politicians to address it as an important issue. I remember seeing the polls on marijuana, like pro marijuana legalization in the early 2000s and mid 2000s, and there was just overwhelming popular support. But because there's no coordination between the people in favor of it, like they literally just can't get the mass, like they can't unify that support under one banner. And yeah, and you know, Clippy helps us do that. I think it lets people know that there are other people who agree with them, and it gives them like a unified banner to act underneath. It's the same with Stop Killing Games. I don't know if you guys followed that stuff, but I think Stop Killing Games is a great example, and that's like reached like European Parliament and stuff, right? There are politicians and everything that are endorsing it, and it's one that is not controversial at all, unless you're Pirate Software. Well, I wonder how long it'll take Clippy to be labeled as communist. I think Clippy will be a national security threat pretty soon. Tariffs on Clippy. Goosey says, I wanted to keep my G profile picture, so I just added Clippy to it. You know what? Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll just I'll have to have a shot of drawing Clippy on a bit of paper, and we can have a little Clippy next to me. I do love the little Clippy next to you. It's a great Photoshop job you've done there, Goose. Yeah, I think he's doing a really good job at articulating it, and it can be easy to feel like apathetic about social media trends and their effectiveness. And I have definitely felt that way a lot of the time about online activism. It does feel a little like it can feel a little pointless when people try to have these like online movements. But the important part is that it reaches a broad enough coalition of people that it also begins to hit the people who are going to actually be the movers and are going to push it outside of just an internet thing into an IRL thing.
the point. That's what I want to have happen here. It's not about changing your photo to a Clippy and doing nothing else. It's about letting everybody around you know when the time comes in my personal life, I will do something. Now, a lot of people have asked, okay, I changed my photo. What's next? What do I do now, Lewis? You're going to have to let me finish, okay? I promise. I'm going to play with you in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Let me finish the damn video. There's one example that I want to go over. I can't give you the company name and everything. I'm sworn to secrecy here, but a viewer emailed me and said that the new management of his company, one of the people asked, when we're working on this, we wanted to make it so that if you upgrade to a new firmware version, that you cannot downgrade to an older one. Right now, on this particular smart device, you can downgrade to an older one. The management asked, can you make it so you can't downgrade to an older one? Now, I'll let you all guess, after watching my channel for as long as you have, why this particular company wants to keep people after changing the management to downgrading the firmware. They want to be able to lock people out of the device and the features that they're probably going to paywall off in the future. He said, no, I don't want to do that. After asking why, they didn't give a good answer, and he said, I don't want to do it. Now, could he get fired? Absolutely. Could the entire programming team get fired? They can, and they can all get replaced. But if you're taking over a new company, there's a lot that could go wrong during that transitionary phase. And you want to have the least amount of bumps in the road possible. A programmer saying, I'm not going to do that, that you then have to fire to replace, is a bump in the road. Is one bump in the road going to stop everything? No. Is 1,000? Maybe. Or a few million? Probably. That's what I'm going for. I want to fast track things that help the consumer, that bring us towards a pro-repair, pro-ownership world, and I want to put obstacles in the way of every single individual or entity that wants to drive us towards a less pro-ownership world. I don't know if it's going to work. but I guarantee you that it's better than doing nothing. And so far, the results have spoken for themselves. Am I happy with exactly where we are right now? No. A lot of these right to repair laws that got passed, they help some areas, they don't help in others. Some of these bills that get passed, or some of these laws like the California one on ownership, this one isn't even enforced. There's a lot more work to do. But the fact that we got these to begin with means that there is the potential to, if people work together. And the only way I'm going to get people to work together is if A, BlackBerry lets me. He's finally tired. There's some hope. I'll be able to finish the video. And B, if you work together with each other rather than just going, oh, that's not going to do anything. You're an idiot. What do I say on this channel all the time? The amount of change that was possible if you work together rather than shit on each other. There's virtually nothing you guys wouldn't be able to accomplish if you spent your time working together rather than shitting on each other. I have a 27-minute video on this. I wish you would. I'm trying to get the ball rolling here. The real thing I want you all to do is in your personal life, when you come across a time or a situation where you can actually do something, you speak up and you do something. And you don't assume that this is a waste of my time because nobody's going to listen, because nobody else agrees. And even if they agree, they don't have the power because somebody above them doesn't agree. I don't know when it's going to make sense for you to speak up. I don't know when you're going to have the power to do something. But there's going to be a point in your life where if every single person were on the same page, you could do something that otherwise wouldn't have worked, and change can get created. When everybody's on the same page and everybody is in agreement as to what the problem is, things just naturally move smoother. I've noticed this in my business, I've noticed this with my nonprofit, and I've noticed this with general activism. And I'm trying to get a little bit of that going. I, be honest with you, was not expecting a paperclip to be the way to do it, but I'm not gonna argue with what works. I'm excited to continue moving forward with this. We have bounties that we're going to be announcing winners to over the next few weeks. For those of you who haven't been following, there's a foundation that we've started to push back against this called Fulu Foundation. We're looking to work against laws that are on the books that are anti-ownership. I try to use this channel to mobilize my audience about the things that I care about. I've been doing that on this channel for 13 years. I'm going to keep doing it into the future. The Clippy thing was just one of many ways that I tried to do that, and it seems to have been successful. And I'm going to let you know every single time there's something that you can do to help push the movement forward. We're going to be announcing winners to the bounties for both Future Home and Echelon in the next few weeks. There's a smart...
Let me just address some comments. Mr. Cynic says, so there's essays on how internet activism works like a placebo to make people feel like they've taken action without actually doing anything, essentially killing movements in their crib. See, I think that is a statement that probably I would have agreed with a couple of years ago, but I think today I would argue that the biggest, maybe fallacy there is the assumption that if internet activism didn't exist, those people would get involved in IRL activism, which I don't think is true. And I think it's worth considering that most activism doesn't work, right? Like, most protests don't lead to immediate change. And it's only often in retrospect that a movement leads to change, right? Like, the vast majority of civil rights protests didn't do anything until suddenly they did. With movements, I think it can be like a case where nothing happens for a long time and then suddenly it all happens at once. So obviously, I would have to read the specific essays you're referencing, but I do think that people can be unduly harsh on online activism. Oh, hang on, the whole thing bent. There we go. Yeah, I think people can be unduly harsh on internet activism because it at least gives people a way to express a belief, and I do think that the majority of people who engage in internet activism wouldn't engage in any activism if the internet didn't exist. It's not like there's a choice between the two. It's that people are finding a way to at least contribute a little bit. Bear with me, the camera's kind of having a bit of a moment. 2 seconds. Right, I'm back. Camera's kind of choking. I think it's a bit too hot. Mr. Senex says, very truthful to hearing Sorry, Smile says here in New Zealand, people talk about things, but no grassroots movements really happen out of it. And if they do, it's the same basis system as what's running, zero independent thought. Yeah, I think that's stuff, right? But I do think the thing that is worth remembering is that most activism in history, most protest in history has done nothing in quotes. It's not necessarily like a new thing on the internet. And Goose, I don't think you should feel bad that you're not necessarily doing anything. There's only so much you can do, to be honest. As long as you're at least aware of it, and if the opportunity does arise, then you have a chance to participate in a protest or something like that, then you're on the right track, I reckon. Clippy Mamdani is making a wave. I was actually watching a Mamdani campaign ad a few hours ago, and it was quite hilarious. Rivulet says if it didn't work, we wouldn't have a meme president cabinet. Yeah, exactly right. The internet can be powerful, and look at the White House to understand the state of the internet and the impact it's been having. There are decades where nothing happens and weeks where decades happen. Exactly right. That's a Stalin quote, isn't it? Yeah, there are decades when nothing happens and weeks where decades happen, and you never know which one you're in. So you just got to keep the momentum going and not necessarily be demoralized by the fact that an activism movement has not done anything. The one I think about is like Gaza protesting, because people have been protesting the situation in Gaza for years and years and years and years now, right? And a lot of those people will feel quite jaded. But now you're actually starting to see countries change their stance and change their tune, and there's like a little subtle shift in some countries, and that must feel quite rewarding, at least, to have some progress. So that's a little bit of a something to keep you a bit more optimistic about internet activism. But yes, where are we? Will says, just joined. What did I miss? I like Lewis. So we watched the first Clippy video by Lewis Rossman, where he basically explained the idea of this Clippy profile picture trend, which is a way to demonstrate how anti-consumerist software has gotten. And Clippy is the example he uses because it was an annoying bit of annoying software feature, but it was one that was ultimately trying to improve the user experience, which isn't the case anymore. And by changing your profile picture to Clippy, it's a way to remind other people that this is an important issue, and it's a way to build some community and show that users are really unhappy with the state of software today, and to broadcast it across the internet. It's quite an easy way to do so. But yeah, he's just addressing some of the criticism from the people who would say that, the Clippy profile picture doesn't do anything, that it's a waste of time and this and that. But the big argument is that it reminds people that there are others that agree with them, and monkey together strong. Okay, falsely attributed to Lenin, right? Well, that's the thing with Matthias, right? It might be a phase that passes. Who knows, mate? The world is so freaking crazy right now. But it doesn't really feel that way, it doesn't really feel that way. Goose, are you aware of how close the Bush election was? Yeah, it was super close. That was the whole hanging Chad scandal, right? Where some of the ballots didn't get registered and this and that and the other. Fats, you know the song "This Land Is My Land"? No, I don't think I do. That sounds supremacist. Oh, it's by Woody Guthrie. No, somebody mentioned this before actually, but I've never actually heard it. I'll read the bars in a bit. This land is your land. That's it. Da, 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 da. Mr. Senate, Gaza shift might be because of all the starving children. Well, I mean, the situation's been pretty dire for a while, and obviously the starving children has gotten people motivated. But the reason you see all those pictures is because people post them everywhere, and people have kept the pressure up, and it can be quite easy to get jaded about that stuff, right? Like there are lots and lots of conflicts in the world where people just don't care because it doesn't really affect them, and you know you gotta you gotta keep pushing, man, even if it doesn't feel like it's working. Yeah, This Land Is Your Land by Woody Guthrie. I've never heard it. I've got the lyrics up though. Trina says, I think the concept of ownership is going to swing widely across the pendulum over the century. I'm still stunned. I mean, it's already swung pretty wildly, right? We're in the subscription era today. You don't really own anything anymore. I'm still stunned to this day how fast America via Biden threw everything out the window in terms of credibility, software, power just for real estate goals. I mean, we'll not get too deep into the conflict talk, but I think it goes way before Biden, to be honest. America has been very big on defending quite grim actions by Israel for a while now, and it goes back, you know, into the 60s and even the 70s. Still pretty grim stuff. Even when American soldiers were killed and things like that, it just continues. But yes, we'll we'll stick to Clippy today. Cecilia says, "As you watch Theo Von, he recently released a video where he interviews a doctor that volunteered in Gaza." Ah, interesting. Yeah, I watched a decent amount of Theo Von. I think I tap in and out when, depending on the guests, but I don't know. I just I kind of feel like he's a little bit of a grifter, because on one hand he'll post these videos of him crying and stuff about the situation in Gaza, and then like he'll be having dinner with JD Vance like 2 weeks after, and he'll never grill them on it when they're on his podcast, right? He'll never grill any of the people who could actually do something about it when they're on his podcasts. So it's hard to believe that he's like genuine, especially because it's not like he's like 25. He's like 45 years old at the moment. And he could really put the pressure on the people who do have the power to change things, but doesn't seem to want to. Yeah, but I still watch his podcast from time to time. I like his guests. I think he can be a good interviewer, but I am disappointed that he doesn't do more when he could do more. And Cecilia, you're right. He does shed some light, and you know every little helps, right? There are many people who do nothing, but it's just a bit icky when he's when he's like giving all this talk on one hand, and then all of his actions seem to be contradictory when he has to put his money where his mouth is. 660, I think you mean Jermaine. Jerome, sorry, what was it? Jermaine. That's like a black version of Jerome Powell. Jerome, but it's probably going to reduce rates. The odds of a rate cut are like now 94% or something in the markets, because inflation is not super high. But we'll see. Well, I want to like Theo. He was genuinely crying during the Gabba Mate episode. He's just too dumb for discernment. That's what I used to think, but like he's 45 years old and he's like clearly like a really smart businessman. He's been in the comedy industry for decades now, and he's made moves that a dumb person wouldn't make to get where he is. It's not just all been like, it's not been all luck. He's clearly like is clever with the people he chooses to speak to and this and that. And I think he gets away with a lot of it because of his like persona, and obviously his persona is some reflection of him, but a lot of it is also just like a character that he plays for the camera. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I like it. It's it is difficult to like. I want to like him more than I do. I even went to one of his stand-up shows actually here in Montreal, and I just think that ultimately he may well care about the starving children, but he cares significantly more about having influence and being around powerful people at the end of the day, and his actions clearly show that. Matthias, Matthias, you'd have an argument if he didn't like speak to the president and the vice president on his podcast and didn't ask them a single question about it. Like, yeah, like that's the thing. Like, he you don't have to be smart, but if you care about an issue, you could easily say like, why is the situation so bad? Even if they give you some BS answer. Like, you know, it's not like he's not allowed to talk about these things. When they go on these podcasts, they specifically pick the ones where they don't even have to give any red lines. And yeah, it's a choice of his to not bring up those topics with the people who can do something about it. But yes, let's crack on with Louis, and we'll see what else he's got to say. But you need to do research for good questions. Well, I don't think you need to, especially given that, you know, I think Theo Von knows it, at least a decent amount, at least enough to ask questions. You know, like asking why a kid's starving doesn't require any research. Anyways, we'll get back to Clippy, lads. We'll get back to Clippy.
Smart home company that pushed out a firmware update that forces their customers to pay about $117 a year to get access to what they had access to prior to the company going bankrupt and reopening under somebody else who wants more money. That is going to change. Somebody came out with a solution for this, and I am very excited to pay them out the bounty once we're done just finishing up all the small legal details and everything. I'm going to be very applications without having to subscribe to their thing. They took that away in a firmware update. You can't use it with the third-party apps anymore. Somebody figured out a way to fix that buggy firmware update that disables you from having access to what you bought and paid for. I'm going to assume that Echelon didn't want to do things that way because they're honest and good people. So I'm going to assume that that's a bug and that they're going to, who knows, maybe they'll even reimburse me on the bug bounty once it's paid out. But we found somebody to get around that, and we're going to be paying them out a bounty as well, and I look forward to announcing that. I'm going to be doing everything that I can do to try and push forward a pro-ownership world. But all the shit that I'm doing is 0.0000001%. The rest is going to come from all of you. It ain't changing your profile picture. That's putting your key in the ignition. You got to do the rest. If you want to be able to drive and go to work, you got to turn it, you got to drive, you have to not crash, which means keep a following distance. Don't drive like the drivers do here. There are going to be things that I ask you all to do. And some of these things are going to be fun. Some of them are not going to be fun. One of them you're probably not going to find fun is when I tell you to go to consumerrights.wiki and help me edit it. There's a bunch of articles on this website that need improvement. When I speak to a senator about any of the issues that we experience, what's the first thing that an opposition lobbyist is going to say? This bullshit.
We believe this legislation is in search of a problem that does not exist.
Something that's resonated with me is something that you heard early on here is this is legislation in search of a problem.
This is a solution in search of a problem that does not exist. That was a particularly fun one because she was actually saying that this is not a problem, but on her own personal Twitter, she was talking about how her phone died and nobody could fix it. Gee, if only somebody made the schematic available. This is a start. A lot of the stuff I'm going to give you to do is stuff that you're probably not going to find fun. I could use people to help curate consumerrights.wiki. When I go speak to a senator and I have that lobbyist there and they say, this is not a problem, I want to be able to look up, click one thing and say, if it's not a problem, why are there 5,736 verified articles on this with sources? Is that senator going to read all that stuff? Nah, but they may listen to it when they would otherwise throw me out of the room. He's going to give it to the legislative aide, maybe the intern. Is the intern going to read the whole thing? No. They'll probably click through 1 or 2 or 5 of them and see, wow, this is actually well cited. Yeah, he's right. The lobbyist is wrong. Oh, cool. Makes progress. Helps out. That's where we're trying to organize groups of people that not just change their profile picture to a Clippy, but actually help create the best well-curated database of anti-ownership practices from anti-ownership companies. Well, that doesn't do anything. You're just writing about it. It's a prerequisite to doing something about it. And it's work that has to be done. There's a lot more work that's going to need to be done. And if you want to keep up to date on that work that needs to be done and how you can help, sign up for the newsletter. It's over here. There's not going to be any spam, no coupon codes, no bullshit, no selling your data, none of that garbage. Also, there's going to be hell to pay if I even see images in these emails. I don't know, we'll see. Hopefully no images in the emails. I like really basically /.1997 template kind of newsletters. I'm hoping that you're all going to be along for the ride. Because if you want to live in a society that is pro-ownership, pro-repair, it's not going to happen from one person yelling into a camera if one person spends money on a lobbyist. It's not going to happen from revoking one shitty law. Well, I really do want to revoke that one shitty law. It's going to happen with the help of all of you, and with changing the hearts and minds of people who believe that there's no point in giving a shit because nobody's going to do anything about it. That's the exact opposite of the point of the Clippy movement. The point of the Clippy movement is for you to look around and see, oh man, I'm surrounded by a bunch of people that are going to do something about it. So maybe it makes sense for me to speak up when I otherwise wouldn't have. I hope you do. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now. And with that, it's time to pay attention to Blackberry the kitten.
I'm on mute. Sorry. I was just saying. I believe Lewis has done a really good job in explaining it and addressing some of the common criticisms that people will throw at these things, because a lot of people just get annoyed at anyone who tries to do anything, and even actions that don't immediately lead to success are useful, right? Like there are many ways to be useful, and simply being like a positive voice of support in a sea of what can feel like silence can be incredibly supportive for the people who are going to do something about it. You only need a small percentage of the Clippies to write a letter or to push forward a bill or to contact their local representative to begin to have actual change. And so I think Lewis is clearly on the right track. And it's not like he's not been talking about this stuff for years, right? But I think it's quite telling that this is one of the most popular things he's ever created, despite the fact that he's been talking about this stuff for over a decade. So yeah, go Lewis. And anything that's pro-consumer is definitely welcome in this world. So related to this, I think it's worth talking about Apple, because Apple is definitely one of these parties that is that is incredibly anti-consumer and has had some backlash from it, from the richest man in the world, Elon Musk. But before we get to that, I'm gonna go to the toilet. Okay, I'm gonna go to the toilet, so bear with me 2 seconds. That's okay. BRB gang. Okay, I'm back. There we go. Oh, couple of pounds lighter. Stay hydrated, gang. Remember. But yeah, all I'll say is I'm very pro Clippy. Maybe we'll do a little creative Clippy profile picture together, and we'll join the trend, eh? We'll join the trend. Hi, Nick. I'll tell you what, on the topic of creative profile pictures, I absolutely love the many JD Vance profile pictures that's still floating around. They're absolutely incredible. Trina says protests need to be backed up by real action that threatens the profit model. Yeah, I agree, and that's what Lewis is advocating for, right? He is saying that we need to follow this up with real action, and a certain percentage of the Clippies will do that. They will carry the load forward and push for actual change in that way, even if most people won't. Mr. Sinek, if I recall correctly, that's one of the arguments for why online movements can actually harm causes. They provide a low impact outlet for collective frustration, stopping it from ever reaching boiling point. Yeah, I've heard that argument as well, Mr. Cynic, but I just don't think I'm convinced by it. I just feel like the people who make that argument have this idea that issues just bubble under the surface until they reach breaking point and just snap. But at least from what I've seen, from my humble experience, my humble 27 years on this planet, the most productive way to create change is like constant argument, right? Constant argumentation, constantly pushing the issue, especially now when issues will die out so quickly without being like consistently kept at the front of communication. And there's also just the other aspect of like, there is no other way to reach this many people other than the internet. Like, how else could this movement reach even half as many people as this? Even if they'd be more invested, like how else could it reach them if not online? I don't know if there's a way that this could be done IRL. And, you know, a street protest for anti-consumer software might not necessarily garner that many people. I'd say revolutions often have a boiling point moment, but you know, there has to be like at least like a low level active discussion about the issue, I think, at the same time, right? You can't just like expect people to all agree to kick off at the same time. And sometimes it does work, right? Recently there was the No Kings protest, which was, you know, biggest protest in American history, and that was basically completely organized online. I think there is a way it can work, and I'm not gonna get mad at Lewis for trying to help, to be honest. Ghibli says literally every private entity benefits from a subscription economy. You're going against all of corporate America, which is the center of power. There's coming somewhere, how futile that is. Well, you know, sometimes it does help, right? Sometimes there are actual legislative changes that have happened. Stop Killing Games is the example we talked about before, and it definitely doesn't hurt to voice your opinions, even if it doesn't necessarily get anywhere this time. And I think it's a lot harder to motivate people to, to start a revolution over dodgy software. But yes, big up Lewis. You know, I think he's doing a good job, and it's hard to be angry at someone who's actually trying to help, especially in 2025, right? Biggest protest in US history isn't as impressive because the US population grows every single year. Well, yeah, but also most people don't protest. Even if the population grows, you still need to get a lot of people out of their house to get comparable numbers. I think it was something like 2 to 3% of the adult population, which in itself is insane. To get that many people to agree to all turn out on one day is a massive success story, I think. Hang on. Bump this up a little bit. There we go. Perfect. So, as I was saying, I think this Clippy trend is linked to another story, which is that Elon Musk is having a bit of a moment today. If you've not been following Musk, first of all, well done. You made the right decision. But if you have, he's been kind of crashing out on Twitter about Apple. Basically, he believes that Apple is behaving in a manner that makes it impossible for any company for any AI company besides OpenAI to reach number one in the App Store, which is an unequivocal antitrust violation. XAI will take immediate legal action. So he's suing Apple or for not like pushing Grok onto its customers. That's really what it's about. But he has this belief that Apple is using its monopoly power to push OpenAI to reach number one in the App Store, and not that people just really like ChatGPT and keep downloading it. Within minutes, he got community noted, as he often does. And it was pointed out that in January, DeepSeek reached number one overall on the App Store. In July, Perplexity reached number one in India's App Store. And both of these things happened, or at least the later thing happened after OpenAI and Apple announced their partnership. He's a little bit triggered that nobody wants to use Grok. He's like, wah, 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 can we get some Grok? And he's been posting about it all day, right? This guy doesn't get his ass off Twitter. He's been calling Sam Altman Scam Altman, which I think is actually kind of a base name. Not gonna lie, it's rare that he makes me laugh. But this is actually a rare case where I believe that Elon Musk does kind of have a point. While I don't actually think that Apple is deliberately like stifling Grok in order to get more clicks on OpenAI, given that they have a partnership, he does raise a really real point, which is that Apple has a crazy monopoly on which apps can be used. And we'll go into it a little bit more, but first I need to sort out my camera again. Once again, give me a sec. I'm back. But yes, the girlies are fighting, okay? The girlies are fighting. Sam Altman and Elon Musk are kind of going at each other's throats. Elon Musk is arguing that Apple is maliciously preventing Grok from reaching the top of the App Store and not including it in its list of like up and coming AI apps in order to deliberately benefit Sam Altman. Sam Altman claims that it's just the way the game works, isn't it? Game ain't based on sympathy, and Elon Musk just needs to get good. Elon is responding by calling him Scam Altman, who lies as easily as he breathes, allegedly. And unfortunately, I think this is a case where the worst person you know has made a good point, because Apple's monopoly power is like a real problem. And even though I don't necessarily think that they're using it to intentionally like boost OpenAI to the top of the App Store, they are using it to act in an anti-consumerist way, in a way that Clippy would not approve. Just a few months ago, if you were keeping track of it, there was a huge lawsuit between Epic Games and OpenAI, between Epic Games and Apple, over the way that they use the App Store. Let me see if I can find some info about it. Epic Games released this like it's quite cool advert to protest Apple's actions on the App Store.
Today, we celebrate the anniversary of the Platform Unification Directives. For years, they have given us their sons, their labor, their dreams. In exchange, we have taken our tribute, our profits, our control. This power is ours and ours alone. We shall prevail.
I mean, the fact that billion-dollar lawsuits have Fortnite propaganda campaigns is really something, isn't it? But behind this like quite silly advert, there was actually like a genuine consumer rights issue at fault here. So Epic Games was effectively suing Apple because Fortnite was removed from the App Store. Fortnite was removed from the App Store because it included a new feature, which was a payment system that didn't go through Apple's payment processor. Apple takes 30% of any payment that goes through the App Store or through apps that are downloaded on the App Store. So if you buy your V-Bucks through your iPhone, 30% of that money just goes to Apple. It's not just that. Apple for a long time had a clause where the app developers couldn't tell the users that this was happening. They couldn't tell the users that Apple was taking a cut and that they could just do the same transaction on PC or do the same transaction on an Android phone and give an extra 30% to the developer or even get the product for a cheaper price. And this came to a head with Fortnite, which, or with Epic Games, which tried to bypass this system. And in response, saw that Fortnite was removed completely from any Apple device and was not accessible anymore on the App Store. They took them to court in Europe and eventually won, leading to now there's been a change, right? So now you can, now Apple can't do this anymore. And now app developers are allowed to tell you that you can go elsewhere to download this app. They're allowed to tell you that, that Apple's skimming 30% off the top for literally no good reason, and that you can actually go and save that money elsewhere if you buy it through PC or if you buy through Android devices. So it's very real to argue that that Apple has like an illegal monopoly over apps and has an outrageous amount of control over these apps, and that they do use that power like maliciously. They do use that power to prevent users from having actual options, even in cases like this, because there's no argument that you should have to buy your V-Bucks through Apple's payment processor. There's no good argument for not allowing them to use any other processor, which would save the customers money. It's literally just exploiting the fact that they control the entire App Store. And in the case of Elon Musk's, lawsuit, there's like a little glimmer of truth there where where he's right that Apple effectively today has the ability to decide which AI app is downloaded on millions of iPhones and millions of Apple devices worldwide without necessarily like giving anyone else a fair shot. And that's obviously even worse when you consider the fact that OpenAI and Apple have partnered together to provide ChatGPT within Siri. So they're highly incentivized for the product that they back and the product that they're partnered with to do well. I don't think that this is why Elon is complaining, right? Because obviously Elon doesn't Elon doesn't give a fuck about the consumer. That's been pretty well established. Elon just has a habit of suing companies that don't give him money. A few months ago, he sued a coalition of advertisers that pulled away from Twitter because of all the bots and the racism on Twitter and the crazy shit Grok was doing. He decided to sue those advertisers for no longer advertising on Twitter, and he's more interested in his money than anything else. But unfortunately, he does have like a glimpse of an argument, which is which is sad to me. But yeah, I do think that ultimately, like, if this lawsuit does lead to Apple's App Store getting a bit more scrutiny, then it would be an amazing thing. The App Stores just have this like unbelievable amount of power where if they were a physical entity in the real world, nobody would stand for this. Like, imagine there was only one supermarket in the entire country where you could get your food, and they can decide which brands are stocked and which brands are not. And before you crack open, your bottle of orange juice, you have to pay a fee to the supermarket. And they ban any product in the supermarket from being sold elsewhere. It would be ludicrous, right? Like, it would be ludicrous if Apple's App Store was like a physical thing in the real world. But because it's all foods, because it's digital, like they just don't get any scrutiny, and they are left to build these huge like influential organizations, these huge stores where they don't have any oversight, and it's never considered that it might be a good option to give people alternatives. Lost Soul says, in Apple's App Store, I was surprised that app I used to learn Japanese vocab is a paid app, despite an Android being a free app. So that's another thing that Apple does, right? To list an app on the Apple App Store, you need to pay like an annual developer fee, which you don't have to pay on Android. This fee is obviously not necessary because you don't have to pay it on Android, but Apple knows that they can extract this like rent out of every single app developer, and so they charge them a fee, and that results in cases like this where things that are free on Android end up having to be paid on Apple devices because the developer needs to recoup at least enough money to pay his annual fees for his Apple account. It's a scam. It's a right scam. And I will say that Sam Altman does have a massive point. Elon is not the man to be making this argument about apps being used to preferentially like push certain ideas. Altman's response was, this is a remarkable claim given what I've heard alleged that Elon does to manipulate X to benefit himself and his own companies. I mean, if you make a Twitter account now, the first thing you'll see is an Elon tweet. I only have a Twitter account to like occasionally open tweets, and I always see Elon on the first page. And I never followed the guy. Right, there you go, right? Like, it's just all Elon tweets. I literally do not follow Elon Musk, right? So, it's hard for him to make an argument that, oh, we should have these, free and open algorithms when literally the first 2 tweets are Elon Musk tweets. The third one is a Trump one. The fourth one's a Trump one. And then the fifth one is finally the first unrelated one about fucking Jamie Carragher. Elon Musk tweet. Justin Bieber's looking a bit rough. But yes, Elon is not exactly like the pro-consumer liberator that he's trying to make himself out to be. But he does have a really strong argument that Apple's monopoly is just a bit ridiculous at this point. And they don't use their powers for good. They use... Oh, I wasn't even showing you. Yeah, they don't use their powers for good. They clearly use their powers just to extract more and more profit out of developers and to charge users fees that just literally do not need to exist. So fingers crossed this actually goes somewhere, and Apple has to at least be more transparent about the fact that they are partnered with an app on their app store and that they're strongly incentivized to make that app do as well as possible. But we'll see if it goes anywhere, because Musk does have a bit of a history of yapping and never actually delivering on these things. So, sorry, I didn't actually even register what this was saying. But yeah, we also do need to address this this situation in DC, because that's a bit crazy. I can't tell if Elon is a sociopathic liar or an evil autist. I think it's a little bit of both, But yeah, he's been crashing out, and bro, he tweets so much. I don't understand how this man has time to do anything else. You can now gamble on. I feel like every stream I introduce you to a new thing you can gamble on, but you can gamble on the number of tweets Elon Musk is gonna do every week. And this gives you like a little good idea of how much the dude tweets. So if you want to gamble on the number of Elon Musk tweets between August 8th and 15th, the live counter is at 354 so far. So 354 tweets in 4 days. What's that, like 75? Yeah, about 75 tweets a day. Well, 80? Yeah, about 80 tweets a day. That's what? That's 3 and a bit tweets per hour? Yeah? That's a tweet every 20 minutes, 24 hours a day. But yeah, this is just like a market. There's $3 million that's been gambled on on the number of Elon Musk tweets. We're at a live counter of 354. As you say, Lost Soul, the guy has 13, sorry, oh, it's them. You guy has 13 children. Man, those kids must be seriously neglected. I think he just grinds harder than us. I think he does just grind different. My favorite bit of cope whenever people bring this up from the Elon boys is that by tweeting he's actually low key promoting his own business. So it's actually genius that he tweets this much. I would wonder, you know, I think the simple rebuttal to that is why did no other social media CEO do the same thing? But I don't think Elon Glazers tend to think that far. Zenji says, I'm in a hotel in the hood right now. My Wi-Fi speed is 2 megabits per second. Videos like 2 seconds on, 4 seconds off due to our Wi-Fi. Oh, I'm sorry, Zenji. I appreciate your support though. I mean, he is living the incel dream. I'm not sure if this is a dream anyone would want to live. But yeah, if you're curious, this is Elon Musk's live Twitter account. I love the fact that someone's made this as well. What's been his peak day? I'm curious. August 11th was 108 tweets in a day. Presumably this counts retweets as well, but fucking hell. 108 in a day is 108 divided by 24 is 4.5 tweets per hour round the clock. If we assume that he's awake for 16 hours, that's 6.75 tweets per hour. One every like 8 minutes or something. Oh my god, he's about to beat his record. He's about to beat the record. My god. 368 is his top count. God. I think it can be a little difficult to feel like the world is a meritocracy, you know? When you see things like this. When you see that Elon is predicted to tweet more than 470 times this week. I just love that Gamble says those tweets, yeah. Yeah, nobody's going to call them what? What do they call them now? Like X posts or something, right? That's the official name? Man, even Trump doesn't post this much, man. Surely there's got to be a similar market for Trump true social posts. Actually, oh, I don't think he's far off, you know? I don't think he's far off. Unfortunately, it looks like I can't gamble on how many times Trump's going to post on Truth Social. Let me gamble on it, please. Yeah, it doesn't let you gamble on a Trump number of tweets. Poly market. Yeah, they used to let you gamble on it, but I think they stopped it when he got banned. Oh no. Maybe I still can gamble on it. Let's see. Yeah, you used to be able to gamble on Trump numbers, but Trump's numbers were not anywhere near Elon's. Is there any way to invest into Elon's tweet stocks? Into the post, mate. Find out if you tell me, mate. If you find out, you can tell me. He was given so much shit for posting as president in 2016 to 2020, like when he tweeted at 2 a.m. Yeah, bro, he's still going at it. The other day he was he was crashing out at Charlemagne the God. I don't know if you're familiar with who Charlemagne the God is, but he's a radio host from from New York. He is not a person that should be on the president's radar, but he said a few things that were critical of Donald Trump and caught the ire of the president. Yeah, it's the guy from the Breakfast Club. Oh, hey, Fraser's son. How you doing, man? How you doing? Yeah, I am live, and we are chatting. We went through the Lewis Rossman situation, and then chat a little bit more about Elon, who is doing some more lawsuits to sue people he doesn't like, and yeah, it's been a good little way to spend the evening. Yes, what else did we have to talk about? We had... Oh yes, I think it is worth addressing this. So last week, I believe, we spoke about the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the situation that was going on there. If you don't know, the jobs reports were updated. So every month, the Bureau of Labor Statistics publishes a jobs report, and they end up revising the numbers from the previous months. They found that there were actually way fewer jobs in the US economy than had been previously thought, and Trump responded by firing the person who runs that department of the government, Erica McIntyre. She was sacked for rigging the numbers to help Kamala Harris, apparently. And everyone's been a little bit on edge about who the new head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics was going to be. And today we actually got an answer. So the new director of the Bureau of Labor Statistics is this dude here, who is called, what's his name? It's called E.J. Antony. And E.J. Antony was previously the head economist of the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation is the group that wrote Project 2025, a very worrying document. And this dude, you might think, okay, at least he's like an economist or something, right? That's progress, right? He's not like a TV host. But this dude got his PhD about 5 years ago and has never worked in labor statistics at all. He's got one published paper with a citation. And it's just like some dude who's been glazing Trump on Twitter for a while and who helped to write Project 2025. It's hilarious, right? One of the first things he said after getting picked to be the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics was to say that we should suspend the jobs report. Obviously, Trump was so hurt by the fact that there were fewer jobs than previously believed that he's making a push to just delete the data, right? If the data is not good, then it shouldn't be reported at all. And it's part of like a worrying trend, I think, which is that this this administration is all about like not having any bad news. It's really bizarre. Everything that comes out has to be positive, and any bad news is fake, and any good news is amazing and true. And it's just like a trend across every department where bad news in itself is seen as a slight on the president itself, which I think is horrifying, to be honest. Yeah, basically a Lex Friedman clone, a professional glazer. And I think it is quite telling that this dude is the one that was picked specifically, because it's not like there aren't like competent conservative economists. Of course there are, right? Like there are definitely people who are pro-Trump who are still able to do proper economics and have qualifications in this realm and have worked in labor statistics for decades. But the firing of the previous head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics sends a message that if you take this job, you will get removed if you report data that the president doesn't like. If you do the job accurately or appropriately and you report the truth once you have it, that is criteria for being fired. And it doesn't really matter if you're conservative, liberal, leftist, far right, whatever. If you're an economist who cares about labor statistics and who's worked in labor statistics, you probably care about the data that you report being actually accurate and being actually representative. And it's basically a position that no one would take because they would get fired for reporting the truth. And so you end up with a guy like this who who's clearly not qualified, right? Let's be real. This is some DEI stuff, right? This guy's clearly not qualified, but ends up with his job as the head of Euro labor statistics, despite having never worked with labor statistics in his life. And one of the first things he argues is that we should probably sack off the jobs report anyways, right? Like, who needs it anyways? It's not like every big business in America depends on this report to understand the health of the economy. It's just made up anyways, man. It's all just made up numbers anyways. If you want to know a few of his other takes, another one is that he called Social Security a Ponzi scheme that would eventually collapse. And I think this is a stretch. He says that we need to sunset the program and sack it off because, you know, people don't really want to retire anyways. But I think it's going to be interesting to see what the vote for confirming him looks like, because at this point he still has to go through the Senate and they have to vote, but they have a majority, so he'll get in. But I'm curious to see if the Democrats will actually vote against him, because tons of the Democrats just seem to be voting in favor of these picks and not actually doing anything. But yeah, I think we need to bring DEI back. At least they had people who could actually do the job back then. Now they're just picking people who are not even qualified. And it's the craziest thing I think is that there are conservative economists who would be way more qualified to do this job, but they all know that they'll get fired for doing the job accurately, and they don't want to tarnish their reputation by just reporting slop. They need to be holy in language and statistics. Yeah, exactly, man. You can't reject the evidence if it isn't made public. But I do think that one of the big like knock-on side effects of this whole thing is going to be whether businesses believe that they can't trust the Bureau of Labor Statistics data anymore, because like tons of businesses use this data to predict the state of the future US economy. And now anytime the data is released, they're going to have to either spend effort collecting their own data to double check that the data that's released is legit, or they're going to have to, you know, do something to figure out what the real numbers are. Maybe it's going to end up with people just using other indicators and trying to find alternative ways to measure the health of the economy that doesn't rely on the government, which is a real shame because there's so much money that goes into collecting this information that you would hope that it gets used to make better decisions, but you can't even do that anymore. Also, by the way, it is worth mentioning that the previous head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics did not have access to the data that they used to collate the jobs report. So they already have like a whole confidentiality process where only people who literally need to access the data can access it. And so firing the person who was running the department before was really just sending a message, because she doesn't even have like access to the databases. She doesn't have to actually compute the statistics, and they lock down this data quite strongly so that it doesn't get leaked to the markets beforehand. Yeah, another toxic thing. The lunatics are very much running the asylum, mate. It's just crazy. It's just so blatant and out in the open. There's not even like an effort to hide it under a veneer of legitimacy. Matthias, I think the new guy was gonna have access to this data. He's gonna be in the spreadsheets adding a little extra zero here and there. The guy who founded Truth Social, exactly right. Matthias says, I'm honestly so angry at my country because we don't poach every intellectual from the US. Bring our rocket scientists back. Where are you from? Because some of the countries are trying to like make an actual effort to poach scientists. I saw France launched a program to like a scientific refugee program to try and get more scientists from the US. But yeah, it's we'll see how it works. We'll see how it works. Like I'm disappointed that the UK isn't doing much, because this is just such a golden opportunity for other countries to benefit. And China's winning. China's getting a lot of wins out of this. Everyone suddenly loves China, man. Like China and India are starting to become friends, and they have hated each other. Oh, okay, you're German. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Like when your choice is between the US and China, and at least China is somewhat more predictable, they seem to actually be making the most of it. But I definitely think it's quite worrying that the person in charge of labor statistics is clearly such a political appointee, and there's not even like an effort to have a veneer of legitimacy by hiring someone who has a conservative lean, but who also has clear qualifications in the specific realm of labor statistics. Rip. I did not see that joke. But I guess, yeah. Never ask a woman her age, or never ask a man his salary, and never ask a German scientist what he was doing in the 1930s. But yes, actually, one other thing I wanted. I like the Clippies coming to help. But yes, one other thing that I think is worth talking about is Canada is having a bit of a moment with the US. The travel numbers have dropped for like the 7th month in a row. So Canada travel numbers, where are we? There we go. This is the one I was thinking of. Canadians returning from the US drops for the 7th straight month. Canada saw 7 straight months of decline in travel by residents to the US in July, according to preliminary data released Monday. Statistics Canada released a report showing that the number of Canadians who made a trip from the US by car dropped by 36.9% in July compared to the same month in 2024. But it wasn't just that travel by land dropped. Data shows that Canadians returning from the US by air decreased by 25.8% compared to a year ago. This is absolutely insane. The fact that it's been 7 straight months, and that, you know, it's not just been a little trend of the Canadians sacking off the US and then eventually going back to business as usual, but that for 7 straight months we've had this consistent decrease, I think is quite significant by land and by air. There are so many states on the border where they say that this summer has been the quietest summer in years, and they've just been left out to dry, which I do think is a shame for those states on the border who may not have even voted for, you know, for Donald Trump, but have had to bear the brunt, and at least that money has stayed in Canada, I guess. Praiser Sun says, no joke, the flights to Macau have gotten much more expensive since the USA started getting so aggressive towards tourists. Interesting. Yeah, so Canada does publish this number quite regularly, and they have a page on their website where they have a graph. There we go. So this is the preliminary info, and you can see the decline is like significant, especially given that we're in the summer. The summer is going to have the most tourists going back and forth between the US and Canada. And losing 36.9% of your trips is losing millions and millions and millions of dollars that would have just flowed into the US for free, because you threatened to invade a foreign country that was like so friendly to you. And the fact that it's by every single means, right? It's not just that road trips have decreased or just that air trips have decreased, but both have decreased. Means that border towns pay the price, airports pay the price, you know, travel like agents pay the price. All the local businesses that would have gotten this money are paying the price. But at least this means that, you know, more Canadian dollars stay in Canada, not the end of the world, and Canadians can benefit. Okay, there you go. See, latest polling by the Pew Research Center suggests that while 55% of Canadians still feel the US is Canada's most important ally. 59% now see it as a threat. While July saw another decline in Canadians returning from the US by air, the same could not be said for those coming home from countries overseas. According to the data, return trips from overseas country increased by 5.9% to 1 million compared to the year prior. Oh, that's quite surprising, actually. Yeah, overseas country is still seeing solid tourism, but the Canadians are not seeing it. Are not. I do think that's quite interesting that that overseas tourism is still solid. I'd be curious to see a breakdown of this, like which cities are benefiting, which cities have still got solid numbers, and which ones have taken a hit. But they're at least still doing good on the international front. However, for a significant amount of people, like the border traffic is literally essential to their livelihood. Goose says off topics, but oh, that's very nice of you, Goose. I appreciate it, mate. Yeah, no, we do only talk about depressing stuff, but you know, I am not super optimistic about the direction of the world at the moment. And there is some good stuff. I posted on Patreon earlier about crime, because crime is actually like steadily decreasing in basically every major city, and that's a little bit of good news. Give that a read if you want it. Praise the sun says fat streams are the second best part of the morning. Appreciate the glazing, lads. I appreciate it. Mr. Clayton says, my hometown in Vermont has been dependent on Canadians, and they are struggling big time. Wow, yeah, I mean, I feel you. There's a spot near Vancouver. What's it called? Point Roberts, I think it's called. There we go. There's a spot in Vancouver here, Point Roberts, which is US territory, but it's completely attached to Canada. And I'm really curious how they've been doing, how the people who live there have been doing while this has all been going on. Because this is like a tiny little part of the US that just has like a land border that's just like regular streets, but it's completely attached to Canadian land. And I wonder if they've been getting hit by this, because if the movement to focus on Canada has hit them, then they'll seriously suffer. I wonder how has Point Roberts been doing? Well, if you want to see how they've been doing, Point Roberts leader says it out loud. Let's just gift Washington State's odd-fitting exclave to Canada. Well, it seems like the guy just wants to join Canada then. Well, that seems to make more sense. But yeah, Point Roberts businesses continue to suffer. A Point Roberts business has had enough with slow sales and is packing up and moving up north to Sawasan Mills Shopping Center in Delta. Neil King says he expects the Rubber Duck Museum to be in its new home by the end of summer or fall. He opened the museum last year as an addition to his Point Roberts shop, Cora's Corner, which opened 3 years ago. Cora's Corner will remain, but the Rubber Duck Museum will be opening north of the border. Yeah, and he says, I think it's going to do really well, at least in Canada, he said. So at least, you know, from preliminary articles, the people on that little bit of land are quite concerned, right? So Winter of Discontent, Point Roberts festival organizers sing worried tune amidst border boycotts. Canadian musicians who put on a Point Roberts festival say their home is a ghost town. And you know, it's like little spots like this that I think really bear the brunt of bad US-Canada relations. Because prior to the last year, nobody who lived in Vancouver or in Point Roberts would have even necessarily like thought about not going there if they needed to go there. And now these guys have just been hung out to dry effectively. It's a real shame. It's a real shame. Matthias says it's a matter of personal security. If you're in danger to be disappeared at a border, you don't cross the border for tourism. I mean, yeah, I was gonna, you know, I'd been planning to go to New York this year, and I ended up just not going and not organizing the trip because I was like like I'll almost certainly be fine, right? Like most people who are going are fine, obviously. But is it really worth the risk when I could just go somewhere local or just, stay in Quebec and know I'll be fine instead of having to risk it? So yeah. But yeah, it definitely doesn't bode well that it's been 7 straight months of decline. And if people get used to going on vacation in Canada, then it's just gonna stay that way, right? Props to the Canadian government. They've actually been pretty aggressive with like making Canadian tourism more appealing. They've made a ton of the national parks free for the summer. Like there's been tons of like new free camping spots and things like that. So props to the government here to get for actually trying to make local tourism more inviting. Oh, the Germans get through. I mean, I do not want to be thrown in U.S. jail, man. I don't want to end up in El Salvador, you know. But yeah, I really do want to go to New York, and I might go at some point before I leave Canada. Who knows? I watch like tons of New York City vloggers, and there are so many nice people in New York, and there's just so much I want to see there. That like yeah, I will eventually go, and it is so close, but I'll just wait for more of a chill time before I head down there. Where are you moving to? I don't know. I'll just have like another year and a half, I guess, on my Canada visa, and I have to decide if I want to stay here or go back to the UK. If I want to stay here, I have to like apply for more visas and paperwork and things like that. But yeah, I'm still debating. Join the Sidemen. But I absolutely despise KSI. Not even for anything he did, but for the fact that he made kids very comfortable saying all sorts of slurs when I was a kid. Also, the endless amount of tourism Quebec ads, yeah. That's not good to America. It's a try. How do you think I got here? Nah, yeah. I'm not. I am definitely gonna make sure to at least visit New York. Maybe after Mamdani wins and my bet comes through, right? Because I got money on the line. When my Mamdani money comes through, I'm gonna spend that on a trip to New York. Let's do that. That's the thing as well, right? The national parks are really gorgeous, and it's like a success story. But they're now gonna start like trying to sell off some of the federally owned land as well, right? That's what I've heard. I haven't really looked into it, but I know there's plans to sell some of the federally owned land off. We do have Niagara Falls, yeah. The Canadian side is better as well. The Canadian side is better. And poutine, although I'm not gonna lie, I think poutine's a little overrated. I'm not gonna lie, I do think it's a little overrated, you know? It's nice in the right circumstances, but they do milk it a bit. I'll tell you what, speaking of waterfalls, I found out about this insane waterfall in Guyana. What's it called? Aight Falls. This is the one. This place looks ridiculous. I believe it's the like tallest single drop waterfall in the world, and the power of it just looks crazy. And it's in Guyana, which is like a rogue little country, and you have to take a plane to go see the waterfalls. You have to take like a little 12-seater plane with a bunch of other people to go see it. And I've added it to the Google Maps. It's on the list of things I'll never get around to doing. But yeah, it is a absolutely insane waterfall. I believe it's 4 times the height of Niagara Falls. If you want a sense of scale. Yeah. Niagara Falls. There we go. 4.5 times the height of Niagara Falls. Insane. Twice the height of Victoria Falls in South Africa. in Zimbabwe. Absolutely freaking massive. Yeah, that's the thing. Your brain even can't even comprehend that kind of size, right? It's 251 meters. So I guess how tall's the Eiffel Tower? Okay, 300 meters. Yeah, so it's, if you want to think about the Eiffel Tower when you think of scale, it's like it's a little shorter than the Eiffel Tower, which is mad. But yeah, I'm gonna go here one day as well. One day, I'll actually visit the places that I keep adding to my Google Maps. Goosey, that's the dream, baby. That's the dream. Canada's the Northwest Passage. I think it would be cool to see that before all the ice is gone. Yeah, I need to make a serious effort to plan some trips around Canada because I just spend a bit too much time in this room talking with you, lovely lot. Nick Cool. I can't even pretend that's a good joke, my friend. I like a good pun as much as the next man, but first strike. First strike. Sheila says universal healthcare is pretty nice as well. Yeah, I'll get that if I went back to the UK as well, to be fair. And I don't even get universal healthcare in Canada because I'm not like a permanent resident. I have to have like insurance and stuff. I'll be here all that. What is it called? Building it's already built. But yeah, how are we doing for time? It is 9:43. I kind of want to stream some more, but I think it is a wise idea for me to get some rest tonight because I've not been sleeping super well. I'm feeling energized, and it's been nice to be online with y'all. We're going to be back online on Friday, 7:30, and we're going to be yapping as usual about other things. Dude, what time do you stream every Tuesday? Brother, this is the first Tuesday I've streamed. I'm gonna try and just be on at this time every Tuesday. Same time as the Fridays, right? 7:30, 7 maybe. Don't hold me to any schedule. I'm notoriously unreliable, brother. But yeah, this is day one of the effort for me to be on more often and more regularly. And we're gonna do it, okay? So yeah, hopefully I'll be on next Tuesday and we'll have some stuff to talk about. I need to balance streaming with having time to edit and research, but we're gonna maybe change the video style a little bit more lo-fi editing, and that should hopefully allow me to be online a bit more often. Cameron Risner says, I took a bus from Vancouver to Toronto in 97 and it really helped me appreciate living on Vancouver Island. I mean, you're living nice if you're on Vancouver Island. Yeah, I am glad I don't live in Toronto as well. Yeah, it's really rough out there. But anyways, I would watch Vad's election coverage. You know what? Maybe in election season, there'll be more streams. I want to be live more often. And I want to make more content. But words are worthless, okay? I can say I want to do things. The thing that matters is actually doing them. Yeah, Comrade Misna, I like this country. I think it's a nice place, and I'm pretty happy here. The only issue is housing costs are pretty crazy, and if I go back to the UK, there'll be more affordable housing and things like that. So we'll see. Ah, Leo, you're joining us. I'm about to go offline. I'm literally about to end stream. Let this be your sign that you can join us on Friday. And I'm going to try and be online on Tuesdays as well. Maybe roughly similar time if you're awake. Otherwise, I will say thank you very much for everyone who is with me today. Thank you for spending a little bit of your evening with me. You're appreciated. You are loved. And I would suggest that you consider signing up for the Patreon. There is a free tier. It's linked in my profile, probably linked in the description as well. I post every now and then on there. I'm trying to be more regular, but I post a little thing about crime statistics, which will be interesting if you are looking for some good news. But aside from that, I'm going to wish you all a very good night. Take care of yourself. Nice to see you, Leo. And yes, Goose and Praise the Sun have been holding down the fort in your absence. Also, thank you to all the Clippies who decided to join. It was definitely really interesting to learn about the Clippy situation, and I am quite wholeheartedly in favor of anything that's pro-consumer. Aside from that, good night, y'all. Take care, and we shall speak soon, okay? Buenas noches. Bye.